So today, on my chair, I have somebody that I'm going to be bullying. Yes, because not only is she someone that is very dear to my heart, she's also our producer. So today I get to ask any question and I get to bully her. Today she cannot bully me because
Let's hope.
she's on camera. So today we're going to be talking about boss energy, and actually, I don't want to say her name so that she can introduce herself. She's actually an embodiment of what boss energy should
Love
be.
it.
And I've
Okay.
been privileged to be part of her journey and seeing all the boss things that she actually gets up to. So, my beautiful guest,
She's
introduce
gassing me up
yourself.
too much. It's too much. It's too much, but I'm super elated to be on the podcast, and nobody can be taking the topic on boss energy other than my
Action.
host, to be fair, because she has all of the embodiments. But I'll introduce myself real quick. My name is Funmito Makanju. I'm a Christian. I'm a marketing professional.
Yes, she is.
Yes, I'm an entrepreneur. I do many things, honestly. I also say I'm a passionpreneur because I chase many passions and I just try my hands, and I do not let definitions or limitations dictate what I can do or what I cannot do. And yeah, this is just me. I'm a girl and I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so when you hear the word boss energy, what does that actually mean to you?
What does boss energy mean? To be fair, when I got this topic, it was so like I thought about it like, how am I supposed to answer boss energy? But boss energy, I think, is just owning your own, honestly. Doing you and shining that light. I'd always said something very recently like, I'm light and I would shine. And regardless, it doesn't, like, the question is not I for the beginning, it's not, are you shining bright? It's like, are you shining? Right. And in every room, no matter how tiny that light is, you can spot that there's light there. And then we can start amplifying the light. So I think for me, boss energy is just shining, amplifying that light, and letting the world see the value that you bring to the
So
table.
it's interesting how you've actually defined boss energy, and a lot of women actually have a problem owning who they are. So I actually want us to actually stay on that. At what age did you actually begin to understand who you were?
That's a good question. I don't think I was an early starter. I would say personally, I didn't think I was an early starter, but there'd always been something there. Primary school, there's just a way Fumito is singled out. I would say I moved around a lot for primary school because my mom moved around a lot for work. But I remember one of the schools that I went to, maybe in Form 5 or something, they were questioning everyone in the room, and the principal came to me and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's like, no, everybody but you. Right. And it's very interesting because I'm like, oh, but why am I singled out? But there was always that difference of, I'm not like everybody, I'm different. And I carried myself like that even from a young age. And then going to secondary school as well, I went to a different one 3 years after I needed to move to another one. Now in this new uni, it was a British curriculum, standard kind of thing. And they said if you were not in the school from year 7, you cannot become a prefect. I got to the school in year 9. In year 10, I became hostel prefect. And in year 11, I became head girl. Why were the rules broken for your sake? So I didn't really spot it at the time that there was something there or I was different. It was just many things aligning. And my mom then would tell me rules will be broken for your sake. That was where it started from. Mm-hmm. And then it became a thing. Like I would say, you know what, if I'm going into this room, I'll be different.
You'll be different.
Even if I face challenges, I'm like, it's boy for a while because you're different and it will work in your favor. And I think that mentality had just made me realize that I don't settle. I don't let anybody define what it is. I'll say my mind most respectfully, but I'll just let my own idea be known. And
so it's funny that you actually talk about it because I had similar experience as well. So I moved secondary schools as well. And I joined my secondary school. So I went to different secondary school and then I joined in what we would have called SS1 at the time. And it was very funny because I became head girl. It's never happened before where somebody would come from a different school
and become head girl.
This
is why we get along.
That's why we get along. And it's funny because I remember as well, one of the, so I got born again. I became a Christian when I joined that secondary school.
Yeah.
And I've always been different. Obviously, I was coming from kind of like a Muslim background and then I became a Christian. Yeah. But I still maintained who I was. Now, secondary school Christianity was so different. Mm-hmm. You had to look a certain way. You had to hang out with a certain people. But I wasn't kind of like that. And because of that, I think some people doubted my Christianity because they felt like I was framed, but I wasn't going to forget my old friends just because I became a Christian. So it was funny because they announced you to be head girl a year before your final year. And I wasn't expecting it. I remember I showed up on assembly. I was wearing slippers, and they were like, "Oh, this year normally we had like a senior prefect boy and a senior prefect girl, but this year we decided to do it differently. There's only going to be a head girl." And we just and they were like, "Oh, the head girl for this year, Darako Sanusi." And honestly, I didn't move from where I was standing. Yeah, because
you weren't expecting
I wasn't expecting. I didn't even hear my name. And then everybody was like, Darako, that's it. I'm like, that's who? For what?
Why?
Why? But why? But yeah, I became head girl. And I remember somebody made a comment. He had left. He was a senior. And he was a Christian. And he said, oh, and I will never forget verbatim. He said, oh, that it's funny how you became head girl. He said, because God had showed him that a Christian was going to become a head girl. First of all, I felt insulted because what are you, in who are you to do? But I was just like, do you understand? Mm-hmm. But the amount of lives that I touched, so it's funny because I had to begin to learn influence and impact and how I actually move. And it's something where when we talk about empowering ladies, which is something that we do at Wealthy Hills, the first step is always getting women to understand who they are, 100%. To understand what they carry. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because you touched on that when you talked about the definition of being who, like someone that has a boss is a boss energy. So I suppose today, I'm sure people are wondering, okay, how does boss energy actually fit into empowering ladies, building legacies and all of that? But the first step is actually you coming to an understanding of who you are. Self-awareness. And how who you are is what we use to actually begin to make that impact, actually begin to build wealth, and actually begin to build kind of like that legacy. So coming to my next question, which is, you have a very strong awareness of who you are, and sometimes, and I'm going to say that because I kind of understand where you're coming from, people could throw the word bossy at you, especially when you're kind of like younger, right? The older generation, I mean, if you talk about we actually come from Africa, could actually see it as rude. But I've come to know that they actually see it as intimidating. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like want to understand how it was for you growing up, being the kind of person that you are, having that self-awareness, and how you were able to navigate being able to be who you are when a lot of people, so your peers might feel threatened by it, adults might feel intimidated by that and use the word that you're so rude around. So how did you kind of like navigate all of that?
Good question. To be fair, before you ask this question, and maybe you'd repeat it for me again, but I just wanted to say something. Someone might be watching and feeling, we touched on grounding yourself and knowing who you are and self-awareness. But as we spoke, something dropped in my mind. I studied building technology and building foundations and all of that were, the order of the day for me, and understanding like a strong foundation and what kind of foundations to build in different places. And I just want to touch on that as it entails like knowing yourself and building on it. Now, the foundation, the very beginning is knowing who you are and understanding the kind of person that you are. Like, what do you like? What don't you like? What are your temperaments? How do you like to be spoken to? For some people, they be direct to me. Tell me. If you come to direct to me, I'll give it back to you because I'm like, why are you attacking me? Right? But some people prefer that it's more like, you sugarcoat it, that sandwich approach.
Some people, let's know where we are going. First of all, I don't have time. Like,
exactly.
My day is too busy, so if you're going to be beating around the bush, please.
Exactly. But me, come with your strong reasons. I come with my strong reasons. We have a healthy debate and then we can get to it. But see, once you understand that first layer, then you understand, what do I need? So for me, it's always a picture of where I am and where I want to get to. And then you're filling the gap. You're building on that foundation as to what do I need for the journey? So for us, we're like, okay, you know what? This is the kind of this is where we are building on. It's not a very solid foundation, but what are the things that can make it stronger? And that's where the self-awareness comes in. That's where mentorship comes in. That's where feeding yourself with good content from reliable people like the Wealthy Hills podcast comes in, right? Understanding all of the different faces that makes you a wholesome person. And then that's when you can now begin to shine through all of that. But it's there's a disjoint when you say, this is who I am, and that's just it. Nobody accepts, because then there's that part of...
So having a growth mindset. I know they always talk about fixed mindset and growth mindset. And a lot of times they apply growth mindset and fixed mindset to like maybe your career or your business, but then a lot of people don't tend to apply that whole growth mindset even to them as an individual, because you hear that, oh, this is who I am. Take me as I am. No, this is not who you are. Like, there's work to be done, and in growth, even when it comes to your career, when it comes to business, you find out that you also have to change.
Being open enough.
You have to be open to innovate. So innovation cuts across everything. Not only business, not only services, but also yourself as a person.
Yeah. And then to the question, to be fair, I'm not responsible for how anybody perceives me. I'm responsible for what I do, right? And I think being a Christian, I'm sensible and responsible enough not to use that the wrong way, right? So I come up very strong, and growing up, people had different things to say. To be fair, I was also the very friendly one. I remember being head girl. Like, I had many juniors that really liked me.
Like me as well.
Yeah,
which
so
is sometimes it's like a conundrum. But then I've also come to understand calling and grace, and I say this very loosely. I think I wasn't a very patient person, but I'm also a very good teacher. So it's almost like two ends of the coin, that because teachers need to be very patient. I don't know if that makes sense, but then I used to think that I don't have patience for stupidity or mediocrity, but then I was also a very good teacher. But
very, very true. So very recently, my pastor was telling me something around the heart and the fire, right? And I think just as I answered that question, I remember, like, I'm very assertive. Like, I know what I want. I know what I'm doing. I'm also very humble to ask, but then there's also the heart that is like, I'm very drawn to people. You know, if I like you, you would know, because like, I'm almost like a child around you. I'm almost like very open. So while growing up, while people knew that, you know what, this is not someone to mess with, because my friends will even come and meet me to ask for my opinion, because they know Funmito will not sugarcoat it. Regardless of if I feel like it will hurt you, I feel like I owe it to you to tell you the truth. So growing up, there was that boss energy of, she knows she's just going to do what she wants to do, but it wasn't in a rude way. It wasn't in a bad way. My friends would say, I'm an old woman in small skin, because growing up with my grandma as well, like, I knew a lot of things. Like, there's just some things that you cannot.
My next question, that did your upbringing
Yeah.
actually have an impact in
it had a big
how
impact.
you actually
exactly. And I would say something in Yoruba that we say, and we'll put the translation on the screen. They'll say "Rántí ọmọ ẹni tí wọ́n ṣe." My mom, it's like you need to remember, and remember the child of who you are. Not necessarily like we're the wealthiest or we're the richest, but there was value, there was self-pride in like you carrying yourself and knowing that you can't mess up. Like, it was a thing of, I saw myself and said, no, it's too low, you know, like, what would I take that to? And then just coming now as well, it's not something, I think it's just been a part of me. I hold my head up high. If I don't know, I ask. I do what I need to do, and unconsciously, you know, this perception and this aura has just followed me, and I'm grateful for it. Yeah.
So the funny thing about boss energy and what I'm hearing from me, and you saying that you were brought up by your grandmother, because my daughter as well was kind of like brought up by her grandmother, and I can see that boss, and there is just something about Orofeoluwa. She's very confident in who she is. She speaks her mind, like it's, and I think it has to do with, so when you're being brought up by your grandmother, I think that boss energy becomes generational, and it's because your grandmother has lived life at the time that your grandmother is bringing you up. There at that point in life where they've seen it all. So really and truly, I do not care what your opinion is. So if you're privileged enough or honored enough to like grow up with them, you're not growing up with your mom, who is maybe at that age, I mean, you're still very young. She's still bothered about what people say and all of that. Do you understand? She hasn't lived life, so she's been very careful. But you're growing up with somebody that's actually lived life, and that probably contributed to like helping you to like obviously be a lot more self-aware and being able to kind of like what's the word I'm looking for, to tunnel or to funnel that like positively. Now, having said that, which brings me kind of like to my next question, your boss energy and who you are, and we getting an understanding about the kind of person that you are, how has that kind of like impacted kind of like your career?
I think it goes back to, so as I said, I'm building engineering, and then I'll just give this story. So I finished and I started working on site with many projects. I worked with Nigerian Navy, and then I worked with private firms. But then I had a health issue, arthritis, that wouldn't make me like be on site the way that I wanted to, and so I needed to move. Now, for one, I think it's also the thing of carrying yourself with a lot of value, knowing that I don't want to settle for less. Wouldn't work, but what can I bring to the table? I didn't want anybody to just hand anything over to me, say, oh, yeah, you go and talk to your uncle, he'll give you something. No, I wanted to earn everything. And so with the career, I'm like, what do I have? And goes back to the self-awareness. What is something that I can do, that I enjoy doing, that I can bring to the table? And at that time, I love talking. If you know me, like, I'll talk for days. And so I'm like, okay, since I love talking, I love public speaking, what career can I do? And then I did a personality test. It said I was very assertive. I didn't know what it was, but at the time, I just started feasting. And someone said, you know what? You could become, the person said you can help, like the opportunity that was available was to become an executive assistant. It wasn't the best at the time, but I knew that it was a foot in the door. I just needed to do something. I would take that over anybody handing anything over to me at the time. And I did this, but in the company, and that's where your light shines. Like, who you are would always shine through any opportunity. So I was the executive assistant and I did it excellently. And unconsciously, this is where the marketing started. I started marketing and I didn't even know it. I was very concerned about the look and feel, the websites, how we were marketing ourselves, what the employees looked like, what people knew about us on the website. And I would always walk into the MD's door and say, you know what? I think we should do it differently. And because of that assertive nature, I was like, yeah, Funmito, bring it to the table. Like, what do you want us to do? And one day he sat me down and was like, do you know you're doing marketing? That was the first time I knew. I'm like, I didn't know. I just thought I had an opinion about something and I was sharing. And he said, yes, marketing, and I'll mentor you in it. Now, the game changer, where I became excellent at it, I was doing this and he was giving me mentorship. And at some point, after doing it for about 2 years, I said, you know what, I think I need a raise. You're still paying me as an executive assistant, as an operations manager. I'm doing marketing for you. I need a raise. And he told me, I can't pay you for what I'm teaching you. There was a moment. I went home that day in the Uber and I cried. And I said, this is the last time anybody would undervalue me just because. What did I do? I went on LinkedIn, looked for all of the biggest marketing managers in Nigeria at the time. And I said, what did they do to earn it? And then I knew the first step was to take the certification, Chartered Institute of Marketing Professionals, a UK certification. At the time, what was I earning? I can't even remember. Like, the certification was like 3 times my salary. I paid for it. I didn't even let the company pay for it. They offered. And I said, no, so next year you can tell me that we paid for it. And so I paid for it. I gave everything, to it. It was during just before COVID as well. So I did it during COVID. I went on doing many projects. And then, I started giving myself to it. And the truth is, success has many friends, so you did it. I was very excellent at it. I passed my exams. I put it up, then people started talking to you, and then people start recognizing the value that you bring to the table. So yeah, I think that's how we really translated, like, knowing that, one, you don't want to settle for less, but also being very content, and I say this contentment part because, many times when things are, at the time when an opportunity could have been given to me was such a big opportunity that I could have gone to speak to someone about. For me, it was like, no, I'm content in the fact that, like, I can walk my way up as well, right? I wasn't trying to be where I wasn't very early. I wasn't trying to show off, differently, because you need to understand your why, right? For me, it was like, no, Funmito, you carry value, and regardless, people would see, right? And that's how I started doing it. And I think many doors have been opened to me, like the part of being a public speaker, being the foundation of what has opened many doors. I speak a lot on personal branding. Currently in my organization, I spoke to like over 500 people, and it was streamed globally just by my gift of public speaking, also making room for me. And just to also touch base, like, this opportunity that I just spoke about, it didn't just come because I went around telling everybody that I'm a good public speaker. When you're good at something, let your values speak. So I took up an opportunity. I'm like, you know what? I would like to do this. And I did it for 3 quarters. People were watching. People would always watch. Everyone is observing something, even when you think they are not. And when the opportunity presents itself, they would be able to point to you to say, you know what, that's your candidate there because you've given them something to work with. So don't just go around sharing your value. Ensure that you're embodying it and you're actually showing it.
Pitching it. So you've talked about a lot of things, and it's funny because when I work with a lot of women and a lot of things that we kind of like talk about at Wealthy Hills, you've talked about being able to ask for what you're worth, which is a lot of women struggle to actually ask for what they're worth. So one of the things that drives me mad is women going for interviews and they're walking into that interview room not knowing how much salary they should be commanding. You're walking into a business deal, you don't know how much you should be asking for that deal. Like, it's all of that. People are handing, it's almost like we're begging for handouts and we get like handed handouts and we just take it. And years and years of research has shown that women go to the table and expect it to just be like given the crumbs on the table when we should be commanding kind of like what we earn. And whether we like it or not, a lot of research has shown that a lot of guys earn like almost times like a third of more that women earn, even for the same job that we're doing and the same work that we're doing. And it's the same thing when we're bidding for projects as well. We kind of like undervalue ourselves. Now, I suppose you talk about work and about the obviously the public speaking events that you
that was did. So big. I enjoyed it,
and I'm trying so much not to be biased because I know about it anyway. But in terms of being who you are as a Black woman, and I know that when you say like, I don't like to use that word strong Black woman, but boss energy is forcing me to use that word strong Black woman. How have you kind of like used that to navigate like the corporate world? Because I know that a lot of times it can actually be, it can be a thing where you're seen as coming on so strong. So how have you actually navigated that?
I think I would be very vulnerable. It's not been the easiest. It's not been the easiest being the minority in the room. It's not been the easiest just being sidelined because and being a Black woman, there are values that we've been ingrained in, like you don't talk back. There are just some things that you don't do, not because you don't want to, but it's that cultural thing. But then I've seen that in the workplace, and I learned this the hard way. Like, a white person, there's this confidence that can't even be annoying. Like everybody knows about it, but they would say it like it's the newest thing. But for you, you're like, oh, I don't want to overstep, right? So initially it was really hard just navigating and like trying to break that barrier. Do they know that you carry value? Yes. Are they intimidated by it? Yes. But there's also the part of you knowing
that you carry.
Yes. So it is there, but then they are quick to try to undermine it because they don't know that you also do not know.
There's always this thing about, even though you know who you are, depending on where you find yourselves, and like you kind of like, okay, it's not like, it's almost like sometimes when you walk into the corporate world, you try to dim your light just so that they can be happy. And the moment they catch up on it, and they use that to your advantage. It's not it's almost like they're praying that you don't understand what you carry and you don't know who you are, so that they can take advantage. And a lot of women, especially Black women, when we get into that corporate world, we actually do that, where we dim our light, not because we want to, but because we either want to fit in or want to be accepted. We don't want to be seen.
We don't want to see too much.
Doing too much or doing too much and all of that. I had a friend where she was very stylish, very simple, but then corporate world, she said, I was like, how are you dressing like this? As in, you like normally own who you are, like stepping. She was like, oh, I don't want to be seen as doing too much. Somebody made a comment about, oh, are you sure? Is this salary that way? So she tried to like kind of dim her light. And I'm like, you're someone that style, fashion makes you happy. It's not just, there's some of us that, someone like me. Do you understand? I wear, do you understand? And then, but with her, style and fashion makes her happy. It's kind of like my daughter as well. When she was even young, my daughter wakes up in the morning, she has her bath. She would dress up, make up her face, and you're wondering,
where are you going to?
Listen, missus, where are you going to? When she was a baby, she was like 5, and her grandmother tried to wear, she was like, oh, I'm not wearing that. I'm like, but you're not going anywhere. She's like, yeah, other people will not see, but I see myself. And I took that away, saying, okay, this girl is like, it is who she is. So you can't, and there's some people like that. And then my friends started wearing, like you say, in black pants. I'm like, why are you going? I'm like, you won't even be happy to be at work because you're not allowing yourself to be you. But then I also understood where she was coming from. She was trying to fit in so that she doesn't stand out. And I know that a lot of people and a lot of women, in knowing who you are, try to kind of like fit in into the environment that you kind of like find yourself. And that was kind of like why I kind of like asked
and there's
that question.
Yeah, and there's also the part of you working three times harder.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You know, it's not because you're not delivering the same amount of work or the same quality of work, but you just need to overly prove that you deserve a seat on the table.
So, when it comes to boss energy, right?
Yeah.
It's a it can be very funny, especially when it comes to like friendships. You either feel like your friends feel like you're bossy, or your friends feel like you come off like a certain way. That's why my question is, how has having that boss energy kind of like impacted your friendships? Because I'm also aware that when you have that boss energy, and I can relate to myself, right? You have the tendency to be very ambitious, like very like you're a go-getter. And within your friendships, if you're not careful, depending on the age, people are either inspired by it or intimidated by it, or then it can even cause some kind of negative feeling. So how has having that boss energy impacted your friendships, first in your 20s and then now in your 30s?
In my 20s, it's interesting. In school, I had I had many friends. My closest friends in school would say, don't go walk into class with Funmito, because on the way to class, I would greet 10 million people. But my circle, I had many acquaintances, but my circle was very small. In school, I had maybe five friends that I would say like were my core friends. And you know when they say opposites attract, and I think in this situation it was like minds attract. Like yeah, so I didn't have everybody in my circle had something like, and we didn't go scouting for, oh, do you have something to bring to table?
Just that.
Yeah.
You guys
And
somehow.
something that I say is old friends are golden. I say that forever, because we were friends when nobody really knew what anybody would become. You know, we just liked each other. But I just noticed that like we rubbed off each other. Like my friends had the same values. Like, you know, we loved God. We were go-getters. We always pressed for, you know, for more. We set the routine to deliver, you know, everything that we wanted. And it was more like we were pulling each other up. So it wasn't a thing of I'm shining and
then,
oh, sorry, my dear. It was a thing of I'm shining. You can't be far. And there's a funny thing that my male friendship circle used to say at the time. They'll say, one person cannot drive a convoy. And it was so funny because it's like we all want to be successful and all drive out on the same level. Not I'm driving and then I'm trying to pick my friend up or something. It was a funny joke, but that's what it has been. And like now and those friendships that I had, or my closest friends now, interestingly, are not the friends I had in uni, right? But I'm still in touch with those friends anyways. But like most of the solid friendships that I've built now are even the ones that I got outside of university, right? We all went to the same university, but we're not friends in uni.
Okay,
Yeah, so we all went to the same university and we knew about each other, but it's where that we became very close after school. And also not just because not because we were all going in a different, it was just we just gravitated each other. The values were there. We real recognized real. And
I like that, real recognize real.
Yeah, real recognize real, and we just, you know, started building something good. And in terms of competition, I'm so grateful that first of all, I would say your mind has a lot to play in this. And I'm very vulnerable even when I see my friends doing well and I'm feeling some type of way. I've built, because that doesn't make me less of who I am. It's actually strength to say, you know what, I feel bad that I can't get this. Like, what are you doing? And because we're able to openly talk about it, it's taken animosity off and it's made us closer.
So
because
comparison versus inspiration,
Yes.
basically, and it's how, like, when you see people winning, does it cause you to compare yourself, and then what does that comparison, what kind of feelings does it kind of like bring up with you, or does it kind of like inspire you to be like, okay, if that person can win, then I can win as well, which is like kind of like really, really important, especially for women as well, going on this journey. Comparison versus inspiration is actually something that is very big, and something that we kind of like, obviously we can't get into it on this podcast, but it's something that women really need to look into on their journey of actually creating wealth and building legacies.
Yeah. And I also think one other thing is, I mean, many things to be fair, but with the people that I love, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. Like, I tell you as it is. Like, if I'm feeling bad, if you did something to me that I don't like, I'll tell you. And I realized that I think I got this from my mom. My mom would shout about something this minute, the next minute she's like, come, let's gist. And it used to irritate me because I'm like, we just fought. I'm still angry, but
sounds like me and my husband, because he is very like, he just, and then I'm like, Uncle, you realize I'm not talking to you
But
because
exactly, but you're inside, like,
yeah,
you're not going anywhere. And I think that's how I deal with my friendships. So like something happens, instead of saying, oh, look at what that person did, you know what, I'll show you, or then it now becomes a competition. Don't worry, I can do it without you. It's like, you did this, I don't like it, and I don't like how I'm feeling about it. We talk about it, and I've realized that every time we hit those kind of rocks, it makes us very strong. And like, you then know that, as you said, it's not competition, it's more like inspirational. It's more
inspiration.
like,
So
yeah,
I mean, inspirational. Then that makes collaboration also like easier
easy.
because you can actually. And then I mean, which is one of the things that, because with a lot of women as well, I find that when they come to me and they're feeling a type of way about their emotions because they've been comparing themselves, especially with social media, and a lot of things on social media, and everybody's like, oh, I closed 100 million deal.
Yeah.
I've made 1 million this year. I sell digital, like all sorts of things going on that social media, and you're thinking that what is that person doing that I'm not doing? But because you can't see it, you get into a wrath, and you're comparing yourself to that person. Then you get frustrated. Some people get depressed, and so it's very, very important to kind of like understand how we deal with all this comparing yourself, and what people's success should kind of like cause you to do. It should really inspire you that, okay, if that person can do it, I can do it. But what is it that that person is doing that I'm not doing? Or what is it that I can actually learn from that person? And then in friendships, if you guys are really friends, you should be able to have those discussions. If you are in a friendship group and you guys can't have that discussion, then you actually need to change your,
and celebrating your friends as well. Definitely. Like when you talk about boss energy, I think every friend that I have that does something great, I'm tooting your horn, like I'm sharing it, I'm celebrating you. And part of boss energy is recognizing what your friend is good at and playing. Like, so someone comes to meet me and they say, I have a friend that is an accountant and she does well. If you need that, I'm pushing you to it. So that is celebrating your friends' wins and their strengths, right? So I'm not saying, oh, you know what, you're good at this and I'm not going to recommend you. Like, I know you're good at it. I celebrate that and I push you forward. So doing that is like, I have a well-rounded, I'm not trying to do what you're doing. I'm not saying, oh, because you're an accountant and you're good at it, I don't want anybody to celebrate you, so I'm going to get into that field. I don't know how to do it. I'm very confident and comfortable in
self-awareness.
Yeah, in like, I'm not like, you are better at this, you do it, let's celebrate that. When I'm good at something as well, you can come to me. So it's not competition. Like, I recognize everyone's strength, we feed off each other's strength, and we're better off for it. Because then we started a group, interestingly, called 360 Degrees Girls, and we didn't even know that it was a thing, but people started noticing, and we were 12 when we started. We're no longer 12. I think 3 people have dropped off, but unfortunately we started and called it 360, and people were just like, oh, I love how you girls are, like, we celebrate together, we go out together. People are doing amazing things till now in their fields, and it was just like that. And people are watching and they're like, you know what? But if it was a thing of, yeah, you know, my friend is doing this, but anyways, people also notice that. So once you have a solid friendship like that, even if, you know how they say 20 children don't pray together for 20 years, but regardless, 20 children know each other and they will know each other for even longer than 20 years. So many things to say really, but it's just celebrating the wins, understanding the strength, gravitating towards value, and just resting in that.
My next question, which is entrepreneurship, because I know you have many things.
Yeah.
And I think I'm so proud of you, really.
Oh.
Of how far you've come.
Thank you.
And I know that we've had many conversations before we actually got to this point.
Yeah.
And it's funny how we're actually sitting down here, and I know that I was like, Funmito, you can do this. Funmito, you should be doing this. Funmito, you should be doing that.
Tell me about the person I tell every time I'm scared to. Yeah,
and I'm like, no, Funmito, no, you can step out. You can do this. What are you doing about this? You're very good at what you do. Ladies need you. The community needs you. Marketing, there's a gap there and everything. And it's actually interesting to actually see how far you've come since you started having those many conversations that we continue to kind of have.
Yeah.
So how has being a boss or having that boss energy actually helped with your entrepreneurship journey?
First of all, I like money. so I know that there's money out there to be made and you just need to put your best foot forward. But boss energy, I think, again, it goes back to mindset. And I'm grateful that even the husband that I now have has the mindset of, you can do anything you want to do if you put your mind to it. Right. And just to digress, like, the time when I started saying I wanted to learn how to produce and make podcasts and all that, the first thing he said is, I need your algorithm on YouTube to change. Because then I was watching other things, and it's like, if you want to learn this, if you give time to it and you watch the right things, you would learn it and you'll be good at it. So it's that mindset of, firstly, just knowing that anything that can be done, or anything that anybody needs done, if I put my mind to it, I can do it, and I can monetize anything. So I have the mindset of any skill, any idea can be monetized, and I really got that from her. Like, any idea we talk about, we're like, okay, let's put money to it. Like, let's where's the paycheck coming from? And I think that's how many of the ideas that I've birthed has come from. And I think I also challenge myself not to do the regular. Like, I'm like, okay, if this is normal, it's okay. I'm not saying that that's not good, but like, I'm like, what other thing? How can I stretch my mind to be different? How can I stretch my mind to do it? And to be fair, I've heard people monetize the weirdest things.
Yeah.
I work
We
in
live
an
in a world
I work with many different advertisers, like applications, and if you hear some of the ideas and how much they're making, you would know that there's a market for any
anything
single
like
idea
and
that
I'm
you
a
bring.
great believer of that. And then the
Yeah.
person that we got to sit in the production chair for us today as well.
Yes.
I think I'm going to get her in the seat next, because
We
she's
need
one
to.
person that I've been pushing that anything can be monetized. And I think I have showed her, I don't know, for lack of a better word to use on this thing, you have to go and Google it. In short, my producer will have to interpret it. Shege Pro Max in this last season for her to like launch. And our business is launching. Our launch date is November something, which I'm so excited about. But yeah, anything can be monetized.
Anything can be monetized.
And I'm actually so like, I mean, honored to actually see. I mean, we did season 1, now we're in season 2, but beyond that, there's so many things that we're working on behind the scene. She's actually helped me as well to pull everything together this year, knowing that I have her there, because one of the things for me that was missing was that whole marketing piece, and how do I bring everything that buzzes in my head together. And you stepping into me, pushing you to stepping
this
into who you're
is a
supposed
lot.
to be, has actually also helped me, because that means that
grateful.
I can focus on what is my core, because I don't have to think about how it kind of like all ties together.
Yeah.
Now, risk taking.
Ooh.
How has Boss Energy helped you when it comes to risk taking? So investment wise, I know you recently just bought your house. Like on the financial side, how has that actually helped you? Because risk taking is something that women struggle with, and that's why I'm asking that question.
I think the biggest lesson here for me is, if I've seen any further, is by standing on the shoulders of those that have gone ahead, and that's the easiest way to explain it. I'm a risk taker, but because the people that I've spoken to have shown me that like it's possible, right? So I've never been a safe investor. Like, if I want to do, once I understand what I'm investing in, I go in. But also just speaking to the right people, knowing who to talk to, how to talk about it. People have done it. Nothing is new. I think my only assignment is to understand what I'm getting into, and then that's it. And with every risk and every investment that I've done, it's been very good. Like, it's like, oh, thank God I did that. On to the next one. So I think I'm still a baby in my investment journey, but I have the right people.
Financial meeting that
we and even with taking risk and investing, I would say it's like, still enjoy your life. Like, I went on vacation recently and I was here counting my coins, like, I don't want to say. She was like, spend that money, we'll make it back. I'm like, yeah, that was.
Do you understand? One thing I say to people as well, and when it comes to like money, people will talk about this 50-30 rule. 50% goes on kind of like your day-to-day needs, and then 30% goes on your wants, and then there's 20% for like saving and investment. But I also, like I said to you, like, you only live once, right? As much as I don't want people's money journey to feel like they're being like they're feeling restricted.
You're working for it, but you're not
enjoying it. And coincidentally, that was the question that I got asked on the radio show this morning about what is budgeting and I'm like, budgeting should really give you freedom to say, okay, you know what, this is how much I know that I have that I can kind of like splash on. And I'm like, look, you're somewhere where there's so much to buy, there's shopping and everything. Splash, buy. When we come back, we'll figure out how to kind of like make more money. And something that Robert whatever his name is, Kiyosaki says in Rich Dad Poor Dad is not necessarily about cutting you're spending. No, I mean that's the first step, because some of us really, we have leaky pockets and leaky spending. But it's also being able to recognize, how can I make more money? And for a lot of us, especially women, we're sitting on a lot of skills, and like you said, anything can be monetized. So I think it's even moving from that. So when we work with people, it's first of all, okay, fine, let's look at our costs. Let's see, what can we take out? What is it that we're overspending on, or what is it that we're obviously just splurging out on? But then it's now moving you from that to, how can I make more money? And anything can be monetized, and that is where I always want women to get to. So when we're empowering women, for me, it is, what can we monetize? How can we help you make more money? How can we help you bring in more income? Where can you invest? Smart ways to actually do it, and then empower you that way, and then obviously build your wealth, and then begin to build your legacy. So which brings us to kind of like some of the last questions. I have like 2 more questions for you. So the first one is, when you hear the word legacy, what does legacy building mean to you? Coming from, and I know that you come from a legacy of boss energy woman, which we were so I am sure that you're going to be passing that on to your children. Sure. But beyond that, what do you think your legacy building would look like?
I'm not sure I'd answer this question, because it's a really tough one. But someone told me something very weird a long time ago. The person said, before you leave life, start by attending your own funeral. And I thought it was I'm like, what is that? Well, yeah. But at the funeral, yes, people typically say good things about people at the funeral, but at the funeral is where you really hear like all of the things, and like people talk about like the achievements and all that. And it was like, what do you want to be said about you? When that time is gone. And to be fair, beyond material things and being an entrepreneur and making money, I want people to look back and say, Funmito left a print in my life. Like, even if it was just being kind, even if it was just smiling at somebody when they needed it the most, even if it's about just complimenting people and knowing that Funmito would be there.
You'd be surprised what compliments do to people. Compliments is one of the things that actually inspires people to actually get up and be who they want. Like, I think we underestimate how powerful the power of complimenting people actually is, because some people literally are at the end of the rope, don't know what to do with their life, can't get up and that one compliment, a word, basically the impacts of words on people is actually very powerful.
2 weeks ago, we were supposed to share something around what you think your skills or your gifts are. And I asked my dad, and he said, you're full of encouragement. And there are so many things that I'm good at, and for him to have said, not you're this or you're that or you're a professional, you're full of encouragement. That was everything to me. And that just means that like I've been able to, even bringing it close to home and like for my family, being able to be that change for somebody and encourage them to be better. So beyond all of the many things materially that I would leave as a legacy, I think I just want to look back and be like, I lived a wholesome life, just being a better person or an encourager to someone else.
So final question.
Woohoo!
It is 5 ways to own your boss energy. So 5 ways to own your boss energy, so that our listeners or viewers can look at these are the 5 ways to kind of like own your boss energy.
All right. So what is an episode like this without me bullying her and passing the question back to her?
Do not even try.
So I'm going to be asking you, what are 5 ways to own your boss energy? Is that the question? Yeah.
5 ways to own your boss energy. So actually, let's split it.
Okay, we'll split it to you 3, 2.
Okay, 3, 2. So you start going. 5 ways to own your boss energy.
5 ways we had said it. Bring value to the table. That's the first thing. If you don't bring value, no matter how aggressive you are about your boss energy, it's noise instead of impact. So bring value and be assertive. So be self-aware and be assertive. Yeah.
Okay. So 3 ways to kind of like own your boss energy, I think for me, is to be confident in who you are. So no matter how tiny you think that thing is, just own it. You'd be surprised how a little light. It's funny when you go into a dark place.
Yeah.
Right? For those of us that also come from places like Africa, they take the light. It's dark, but then you just put on a candle, just a match, and then there's
You can
a
see
little bit
better.
of light. You can see better. So it's about even when you think that thing that is in me is very little, it is owning that very little.
And it could
very,
be big
very
for somebody.
It could be big for somebody. The second thing is let people's success inspire you. So comparison, they say it's a stealer of joy, and comparison actually paralyzes you. So for me is one of the 5 ways really is to be inspired by everything that is around, be inspired by people's successes. And then the other thing is to invest in yourself. I know you've talked about it a lot, about how when you switched careers, you went to look at what are the things that I need to do to be successful in my career. So it is investing in yourself. It is very, very important to invest in your growth. I cannot say that enough. Be it your hard skills, your technical skills, your soft skills. Invest in yourself, invest in your growth, and that is really, really, really important.
And lastly, one thing that I've run with for a long time is called 5 levels of indispensable influencers in your life, and everybody has this. So 1, you have your parents, which is the foundation. I spoke here about like my grandma, I spoke about my mom. Your parents shape a lot of things, in you becoming that boss that you want to be. You have a coach. A coach is someone that really sees the value that you bring or something that you're good at, a good skill, and helps you to develop this and channels it in the right direction. You have a sponsor, someone that has a foot in the door in rooms that you don't have access to, and is able to, share about your wins and talk about you in the best way possible. You have a role model. You always need to have, and I spoke about this, people that you look up to say, you've done it before. How did you do it? And just go through their own journey and see how you can also get that for yourself. And I think the last one is, I think I said sponsor, role model, parents, coaches, and there's a 5th one, honestly, but I can't remember. And if we remember, we'll put it on the screen. But yeah.
So with that, we come to the very end of this interesting episode where I got to bully my producer.
And bully her back.
So, if you enjoyed this episode, as we always say, don't forget to like, share, send it to everyone around, including your enemies, because to be honest with you,
and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And subscribe to our YouTube. Yes, exactly. Yes, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We now have a YouTube channel. Woohoo! But Funmito, we have it. Thanks so much for sitting in my chair. It was actually very exciting to have you. Oh my God.
Oh, we're happy. Thank you.
Thank you.